Let me tell you something, and I want you to hear this real clear. Men don't get addicted to looks. Looks might catch his eye, but they don't capture his soul. A man gets addicted to how he feels when he's around you. That's the truth nobody tells you. You can be the prettiest woman in the room, but if you bring chaos, stress, and pressure, he'll slowly start pulling away. But if you bring peace, oh baby, peace will make a grown man act different. Let me explain this first behavior the right way, because if you truly understand this, everything else becomes easier. Emotional peace is more addictive to a man than beauty, talent, or even chemistry. I know that sounds surprising, but I've been a man my whole life, and I'm telling you the truth. A man can admire beauty anywhere. Beauty is everywhere. But peace is rare. And whatever is rare becomes valuable. A man's life is pressure. From the moment he wakes up, he's expected to perform, to provide, to be strong, to have answers. At work, they want results. At home, they want solutions. In the world, they want confidence. And most men don't talk about how heavy that gets because they were taught not to. So when a man meets a woman who feels like a safe place, not a battlefield, something shifts inside him. He starts associating you with relief, with rest, with comfort. And the human mind gets addicted to whatever brings relief. Now, emotional peace doesn't mean you never express your feelings. That's not what I'm saying. Emotional peace means you don't attack him every time you're hurt. It means you don't turn every conversation into a courtroom where he's always on trial. It means you don't remind him of his mistakes every time you're upset. When a man talks to you and doesn't feel judged, interrupted, or minimized, he feels respected. And respect is the doorway to a man's heart. Most women don't realize this, but how you react matters more than what you say. If he comes to you stressed and your first response is pressure, complaints, or comparison, his mind starts avoiding you. Not because he doesn't care, but because his nervous system is tired. But if he comes to you and you respond with calm energy, understanding, and patience, he starts craving your presence. Your voice becomes soothing. Your name brings peace. And now you're not just a woman he likes, you're a woman his spirit connects to. Here's another truth. Emotional peace makes a man open up naturally. You don't have to beg him to communicate. You don't have to ask 1,000 questions. When he feels safe, he talks. When he doesn't, he shuts down. Men open emotionally where they feel accepted, not controlled. If he feels like every word he says will be used against him later, he'll give you silence. But if he feels like you're a partner, not a prosecutor, he'll give you honesty. Peace also means emotional maturity. It means you don't let small things become big disasters. You don't jump to conclusions. You don't assume the worst without facts. That emotional stability tells a man, this woman can handle life. And men are instinctively drawn to women who make life feel lighter, not heavier. And listen carefully, because this part matters. Emotional peace doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means you address issues without drama, without yelling, without trying to hurt back. When a man sees that you can stand firm without losing your dignity, he feels both calm and challenged. That combination is powerful. Over time, he starts noticing something. After dealing with the world, after handling stress, after fighting battles nobody sees, being with you feels like coming home. And once a man associates a woman with peace, removing her from his life feels like removing oxygen. That's when attachment forms. Not because you forced it, not because you chased it, but because peace quietly wrapped itself around his heart and stayed there. Let me break this one down carefully, because consistency is one of the most misunderstood behaviors in relationships. Consistency builds trust, not chasing. And trust is what makes a man stay emotionally invested. A lot of women believe that the more they give, the more they show up, the more they chase, the more a man will value them. But men don't bond through pursuit the way women do. Men bond through stability, through knowing where they stand. Consistency means your energy doesn't change based on his mood. You're not overly sweet one day and cold the next just to get a reaction. You're not loving when things are good and distant when things feel uncertain. A man pays close attention to emotional patterns, even if he doesn't talk about it. When he can predict your reactions in a healthy way, he feels safe. And safety creates attachment. Chasing, on the other hand, creates imbalance. When you over-text, over-call, over-explain, and over-accommodate, you send a message you don't intend to send. You tell him, I need you more than you need me. And the moment a man feels like he's the center of your world instead of a part of it, something in him relaxes too much. Effort slows down, curiosity fades. Not because he's evil, but because human nature values what feels mutual, not what feels guaranteed. Consistency is also about boundaries. You don't disappear to teach lessons, and you don't cling to prevent distance. You stay grounded in who you are. If he texts, you respond with warmth. If he needs space, you don't panic. You don't punish him with silence, and you don't reward him for inconsistency by doubling your effort. You remain steady. And that steadiness confuses a man in the best way, because he can't control it with push and pull. Here's something important. Consistency shows emotional confidence. It tells a man you enjoy him, but you don't lose yourself in him. You have a life, responsibilities, goals, and joy outside of him, and that makes him curious. Because now he's not just being loved, he's being chosen. Men want to feel chosen, not needed. Needing creates pressure. Choosing creates desire. When a man sees that you don't chase him when he pulls back, but you also don't shut down or play games, he starts reflecting. He starts asking himself why he's pulling away from someone who treats him well. And that reflection often pulls him back emotionally. Consistency invites a man to step up without force. Another thing consistency does is it builds emotional memory. Over time, your steady presence becomes familiar. Familiar doesn't mean boring when it's healthy. It means reliable. It means safe. His mind starts associating you with stability instead of anxiety. And once that happens, your absence feels noticeable. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just missing. This is where attachment quietly forms, not in intense moments, not in arguments, but in everyday interactions where you show up as yourself without trying to prove anything. Men get addicted to how something makes them feel over time, not all at once. Consistency creates that slow, deep bond that doesn't disappear when things get hard. And here's the final truth about consistency. It allows a man to pursue you without pressure. When he knows you're not going anywhere emotionally, but you're also not begging him to stay, he feels free to choose you. And when a man feels free to choose, that choice becomes powerful. That's when effort becomes natural and attachment becomes real. Let me tell you why self-respect is one of the most magnetic behaviors a woman can have and why it changes the way a man sees her at a deep level. Self-respect isn't loud and it isn't aggressive. It's quiet, firm, and unshakable. And that's exactly why it gets a man's attention. A woman with self-respect doesn't have to announce her standards. Her behavior already explains them. When a woman knows her worth, she doesn't tolerate confusion for long. She doesn't accept mixed signals and then blame herself for not understanding them. She pays attention to actions more than words. And when something doesn't feel right, she addresses it calmly or she steps back. That alone separates her from the majority because most people stay where they are uncomfortable just to avoid being alone. Here's what happens in a man's mind. When he realizes you are not afraid to lose him, but you are afraid to lose yourself, something clicks. He understands that your presence in his life is a privilege, not a guarantee, and men naturally protect and invest in what they feel they could lose. Fear of loss is one of the strongest motivators there is, but it only works when it's real, not when it's manipulated. Self-respect also means you don't chase explanations. You don't argue your value. You don't beg someone to see you correctly. If he pulls away without reason, you don't collapse emotionally trying to pull him back. You observe, you adjust. You continue living your life. That behavior sends a powerful message. Your happiness does not depend on his validation. And that independence is deeply attractive. A woman with self-respect understands timing. She knows when to speak and when silence says more. She doesn't explode in emotional moments just to be heard. She waits until she can communicate with clarity and dignity. And when she does speak, her words carry weight because she doesn't talk just to talk. Men respect that kind of emotional control, even if they don't admit it out loud. Now let's talk about boundaries because self-respect lives there. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They allow the right behavior in and keep the wrong behavior out. When you calmly enforce boundaries, a man learns how to treat you. If he crosses a line and nothing changes, he learns that line was imaginary. But if you respond with distance, consequences, or clarity, he learns that your standards are real. Here's the part most people miss. Self-respect doesn't push the right man away. It challenges him. A man who truly cares will rise to meet your standards. He will adjust, grow, and try harder. A man who only wanted convenience will disappear. And that's not a loss. That's protection. Over time, a man starts noticing something else. You don't tolerate emotional crumbs. You don't stay silent about disrespect, but you also don't scream about it. You handle situations with grace. That balance of softness and strength stays in his mind. It makes him think. It makes him reflect. And reflection is where attachment grows. When a man sees that you can walk away from what doesn't serve you, he starts valuing you differently. Because now loving you requires effort, intention, and consistency. And men get attached to what they invest in. Self-respect forces investment without demanding it. And that's why it becomes addictive, because it makes a man step up if he wants to stay in your world. Let me explain why softness with boundaries is such a powerful combination, because a lot of people think you have to choose one or the other. They think if you're kind and gentle, you'll be taken advantage of, and if you're firm, you'll be seen as cold. But the truth is, the most unforgettable women are both. They are warm in energy, but solid in standards. And that balance does something very specific to a man's heart and mind. Soft femininity is in how you speak, how you respond, and how you carry yourself. It's not about being quiet or submissive. It's about emotional grace. It's the ability to communicate without attacking, to express feelings without trying to dominate the conversation. When a man feels that your presence is calming rather than confrontational, his natural instinct is to move closer. Men are wired to avoid emotional chaos, not emotional depth. But softness without boundaries turns into self-sacrifice, and that's where attraction dies. Boundaries are what protect your softness. They make it valuable instead of available. When you're gentle but still say no when something doesn't sit right, a man feels both comfort and respect. Comfort makes him relax. Respect makes him commit. A woman with boundaries doesn't explain herself 100 times. She doesn't feel guilty for protecting her emotional space. If something crosses her line, she addresses it once, clearly and calmly. And if it continues, she changes her access, not her values. That teaches a man that your kindness is a choice, not a weakness. Men respond strongly to this balance because it mirrors what they admire internally: strength under control, power that doesn't need to shout. When a man sees that you don't lose your femininity when you stand up for yourself, it changes the way he views women altogether. He realizes love doesn't have to come with chaos or control. Softness also allows a man to feel accepted. When he feels accepted, he feels safe enough to be imperfect, and that safety creates emotional intimacy. But boundaries remind him that acceptance doesn't mean tolerance of disrespect. That combination keeps him emotionally alert. He can relax, but he can't take you for granted. Another thing that makes this behavior addictive is emotional predictability without emotional access. You are kind, loving, and supportive, but not endlessly available. Your time, energy, and attention are not given on demand. They are shared through mutual effort. That teaches a man to value what he receives from you because he knows it's not guaranteed. When conflict happens, this balance becomes even more powerful. You don't yell, insult, or try to hurt back. You express how you feel with clarity, and then you allow space for accountability. You don't chase apologies. You don't beg for change. You let your response speak. And men listen closely to behavior even more than words. Over time, a man starts associating you with emotional safety and emotional discipline. He knows he can come to you without fear of attack, but he also knows he can't cross lines without consequences. That creates respect, and respect is what transforms attraction into attachment. This is why softness with boundaries stays in a man's mind. It's rare, it's mature, it feels good, but it also feels meaningful. And when a man realizes that being with you makes him feel calm, respected, and challenged at the same time, he doesn't just enjoy your presence, he starts protecting it. Let me tell you something most people never explain correctly. Men don't fall deeply in love just because a woman is beautiful, caring, or supportive. Those things matter, but what truly locks a man in emotionally is how a woman makes him feel about himself when he's with her. And that's where letting a man feel like a hero comes in. This isn't about feeding ego or pretending you're weak. It's about understanding a man's inner drive to feel useful, capable, and appreciated. From a young age, men are taught that their value comes from what they can do, fix, provide, or protect. Even in modern relationships, that wiring doesn't disappear. A man wants to feel that his presence adds value to your life. When he feels that, he feels needed in a healthy way. And healthy need creates attachment, not pressure. Letting a man feel like a hero starts with appreciation, not admiration. Admiration can feel distant and performative. Appreciation is personal. It's noticing the effort he makes, even when it's small. It's acknowledging his intentions, not just the results. When you say, "I really appreciate you doing that for me," you activate something in him that says, "I matter here." But here's the balance most people miss. Appreciation works when it's real, not exaggerated. Overpraising a man for bare minimum effort actually reduces its power. Men can sense when appreciation is being used as a tool instead of a response. When it's genuine, it lands differently. It makes him want to do more, not because he's asked to, but because it feels good to be valued. Another part of making a man feel like a hero is allowing him to contribute without controlling how he does it. Many women unintentionally take this away by correcting, micromanaging, or redoing what he offers. When a man feels like his effort is never enough or never right, he slowly stops trying. But when you allow his contribution to stand, even if it's not perfect, you preserve his sense of competence. This doesn't mean you lower your standards. It means you don't compete with him. You don't try to prove you can do everything better. When a man feels like he has a role in your life that matters, he becomes emotionally invested in protecting that